Your brain is lying to you right now. Not because something is wrong with you, but because you have accidentally trained it to do exactly that. Overthinking is not a personality trait. It is not who you are. It is a habit your brain learned because at some point in your life excessive thinking felt like it was keeping you safe. But here is what no one tells you. The more you overthink, the worse your decisions become. The more anxious you feel, the more stuck you stay. And the most dangerous part is that your brain will convince you that all that thinking is actually productive. It is not. It is mental quicksand. And today you're going to learn how to step out of it in 5 minutes or less using real psychology. Not toxic positivity. Not deep breathing exercises from a magazine. Actual techniques rooted in cognitive neuroscience and behavioral psychology that work fast. Stay until the end, because the last technique is the one most people never hear about, and it is the one that changes everything. First, you need to understand what is actually happening inside your brain when you overthink, because once you see the mechanism, you cannot unsee it, and that alone starts to break its power over you. When your brain perceives uncertainty, it activates the amygdala. This is your brain's threat detection system. The amygdala does not know the difference between a lion chasing you and a conversation you are replaying in your head at 2 in the morning. To the amygdala, both are equally dangerous. So it floods your body with cortisol and adrenaline and keeps your mind spinning trying to solve a threat that does not exist in the physical world. This loop is called rumination, and research from Yale University found that people who ruminate excessively have significantly higher rates of anxiety, depression, and even cardiovascular disease. Overthinking is not just mentally exhausting, it is physically destroying your body. Now let us fix it. The first psychological trick is called cognitive diffusion, and it comes directly from acceptance and commitment therapy developed by psychologist Stephen Hayes. Most people try to fight their intrusive thoughts. They tell themselves, stop thinking about it, or you are being ridiculous. But fighting a thought gives it power. It is like trying not to think of a pink elephant. The moment someone tells you not to think of one, that is all you see. Cognitive diffusion does the opposite. Instead of fighting the thought, you create distance from it. Here is how you do it right now. Take the thought that is looping in your head. Now, instead of saying, I am so anxious about this meeting, say, I notice I am having the thought that I am anxious about this meeting. Add the phrase, I notice I am having the thought that before anything your mind is telling you. This tiny shift moves the thought from something you are inside of to something you are observing. Research shows this reduces the emotional intensity of a thought by up to 60% within minutes. You are no longer the thought. You are the one watching the thought. That is a completely different relationship with your own mind. The second technique is called the 2-minute worry window, and it was developed from research on scheduled worry time at Penn State University. Here is the problem with trying to suppress overthinking throughout the entire day. Your brain treats suppressed thoughts like a beach ball held underwater. The moment you release pressure, that ball explodes back to the surface faster and harder than before. This is called the rebound effect. What neuroscience actually recommends is the opposite. Give your overthinking a specific container. When a worry or looping thought appears, say to yourself, I hear you. You get 2 minutes at 3 p.m. Then write it down on a piece of paper. Physically writing it removes it from your mental RAM and stores it externally. Your brain no longer has to keep the thought active to remember it. When your scheduled worry window arrives, sit down, review your list, and think about it intentionally. What you will find is that most of the things that felt catastrophic in the moment look significantly smaller on paper. You have taken a monster that lived in the dark and dragged it into the light. Monsters always shrink in the light. The third technique is called the 5-5-5 method, and it directly attacks the catastrophizing loop that overthinking thrives on. Catastrophizing is when your brain takes a small problem and escalates it all the way to worst-case scenario at lightning speed. You send one awkward email and within 90 seconds your brain has you fired, homeless, and completely alone. The 5-5-5 method breaks that spiral instantly. Ask yourself 3 questions in sequence. Will this matter in 5 days? Will this matter in 5 months? Will this matter in 5 years? For the vast majority of things you are obsessing over, the answer is no to all 3. And that is not toxic positivity telling you your problems do not matter. That is perspective. Psychologist Daniel Kahneman, who won the Nobel Prize in economics, found that humans are catastrophically bad at predicting how long negative events will affect their emotional state. We consistently overestimate how much things will hurt us and for how long. The 555 method is a built-in correction for that cognitive error. It forces your prefrontal cortex back online and weakens the amygdala's stranglehold on your thinking. The fourth technique is called bilateral stimulation, and this one comes directly from EMDR therapy, which is a method used by trauma psychologists to treat PTSD. You do not need a therapist to use a simplified version of this right now. Here is the science. When your brain is stuck in an overthinking loop, it is essentially processing information only in your emotional brain. The logical brain goes quiet. Bilateral stimulation, which means alternating left-right sensory input, literally activates both hemispheres of the brain simultaneously and forces the nervous system to reset. The simplest way to do this is butterfly tapping. Cross your arms over your chest like you are giving yourself a hug. Then alternately tap your left shoulder, then your right shoulder slowly and rhythmically. Left, right, left, right. Do this while taking slow, deep breaths for about 60 seconds. Studies on EMDR and bilateral stimulation show measurable reductions in anxiety and emotional flooding within minutes. Another version of this is simply walking. When you walk, your left foot and right foot alternate and your eyes naturally move side to side. This is why a walk almost always clears your head. It is not just the fresh air. It is the bilateral stimulation reorganizing your brain's processing. The fifth technique is called the name it to tame it method, and it was popularized by Dr. Dan Siegel, a clinical professor of psychiatry at UCLA. When you are deep in an overthinking spiral, your prefrontal cortex, which handles logic and rational thought, essentially goes offline. The amygdala takes over and you are operating purely from emotion and fear. But here is something remarkable that neuroscience discovered. The simple act of labeling your emotion in specific language reactivates your prefrontal cortex almost immediately. Not just saying, "I feel bad." That is too vague. You need to get granular. Am I feeling scared, embarrassed, ashamed, rejected, humiliated, uncertain? The more precisely you name what you are actually feeling, the faster your rational brain comes back online. Research from UCLA showed that when people labeled their negative emotions in detail, the activity in the amygdala dropped significantly compared to people who just experienced the emotion without naming it. Words are not just communication. They are neurological tools. Use them on yourself with precision, and you instantly reduce the brain's threat response. Now here is the technique most people never hear about. The one that does not just stop overthinking in the moment, but actually changes your brain's default setting over time. It is called behavioral activation, and it is rooted in the same science used to treat clinical depression. Here is the problem with overthinking that nobody talks about. Overthinking is almost always accompanied by inaction. You are spinning in your head because you are not doing anything with your body. And here is the brutal truth. More thinking never solves an overthinking problem. Action does, even tiny action. Psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, whose research on flow states changed how we understand human performance, found that the brain cannot simultaneously be in a state of overthinking and a state of engaged action. These two states are neurologically incompatible. When you are truly engaged in a task, your default mode network, which is the part of your brain responsible for mind-wandering and self-referential thought, goes quiet. Completely quiet. This is why some people describe exercise, cooking, or building something with their hands as meditative. It is not because those activities are boring. It is because full engagement shuts down the overthinking system entirely. So the next time you feel the spiral starting, do not try to think your way out of it. Move. Do the smallest possible version of whatever you have been avoiding. Send the email. Make the call. Write one sentence. Stand up and walk to another room. The action does not have to be big. It just has to interrupt the loop. And once the loop is interrupted, your brain gets a chance to reset, and suddenly the thing you were catastrophizing about for the past hour looks like what it always was: manageable. Here is what all of this comes down to. Overthinking is your brain trying to protect you from a future that has not happened yet. And while your brain means well, its methods are outdated. They were designed for a world where physical threats were everywhere. But most of the threats you face today are social, psychological, and emotional. They live in your mind, not in reality. And the moment you stop trying to think your way out of overthinking and start using these tools to shift the brain's actual neurological state, everything changes. Cognitive diffusion creates distance from your thoughts. The worry window gives your brain permission to let go. The 555 method destroys catastrophizing. Bilateral stimulation resets your nervous system. Naming your emotions reactivates your rational brain. And behavioral activation shuts down the overthinking loop entirely. You do not have to be a prisoner of your own mind anymore. These tools exist, the science is real, and now you have them. The only move left is to use one of them the next time the spiral starts, and it will start, but this time you will be ready.